Hi, and welcome to this YouTube channel regarding AD, a channel dedicated to anything and everything about audio description and what I'm learning about it. Last week's video was was something else. It was extra. It was a lot. It was over an hour of me comparing my audio description to that of Disney Plus's for Steamboat Willie. In light of such a long video and not what I at all intended to set out to do on this channel, I think I might kind of scale it back, pare it back a little bit this week. You know, there's a lot of things that probably could be talked about, but I'm just going to do a casual thing, but still pertinent. I've been making my way through the Routledge Handbook of audio description. So Taylor and Francis, I believe, are the publishers of this handbook series. They've got handbooks on who knows how many different subjects, but not too long ago, I don't know the exact published date, they came out with 2022. They came out with a handbook on audio description, edited and compiled by Christopher Taylor and Eliza Perego, who also contribute chapters. So this, as far as I know, is sort of like the only kind of cross-disciplinary big, scholastic kind of call out for people working in the space and or trying to, apply disciplines and theoretical knowledge and even practical goings on in the world of audio description into some sort of kind of like scholarly work. There's probably people publishing their own things, and of course, there's a dissertation from way back in the day, and there's the visual made verbal, which I've read. But in terms of like up to date, what's going on in the state of the field, I think it's this. And so I've been making my way through it. It features a lot of work from Europe because a lot more programs out there study and look into this in line of audio-visual translation, sometimes with the acronym AVT. And alongside people who study subtitling and kind of the translation practices that go on there. They also include the translation practices of audio description and, starting with visuals and then ending with something oral that you hear. So I thought what I could do is I've maybe read about 8 chapters. So this is not going to be a comprehensive review or some sort of, a write-up about every single chapter or something like that. I'm not really doing this for anybody other than myself. But I thought I would just kind of, in the style of let's chat or just sort of just chatting, that's what it's called. Just kind of talk about, but severely limit my time. So I'm only gonna talk about 10 minutes regarding these first few chapters. So so I did want to say, if you're at all interested in this, looking into any of these things or getting into it, another plug for libraries. I've been talking about that. I was able to gain access to this handbook through the library that I'm associated with at my university as just a staff member there. So you might have access to something like this through your library, and if you don't, and because I'm sure these things, if you wanted to try to buy it, I'm sure it's a whole bunch of money. That's how these things work. But if you're just wanting to peruse and check it out, I highly suggest you try to go through your library. And if they don't have it, you might want to just put a bug in someone's ear that you're interested in it and they could consider getting it. It's not off the table to make a suggestion that somebody, pony up so that all the members of that library have it. And there's usually like consortia and lots of sharing of interlibrary, whatever. But yeah, I ended up printing out all of the chapters just because I am not finding myself be a very good reader of digital stuff. My eyes go cross pretty quickly. So first up, there's an introduction by the editors, and yeah, they basically just summarize every single chapter. So basically this video is in a sense kind of rehashing some of that stuff, but with no degree of accuracy. Just like I said, just chatting. The volume is broken down into a couple of parts. Part 1 is a few chapters, and the title of the part is Accessibility and Blindness. So kind of starting off with not specifically audio description, practices, but taking some steps back. So chapter 1, The Question of Accessibility, is by Gian Maria Greco. I can't say that I was too familiar with a lot of the topics that were kind of talked about here. It kind of raised a lot of different kind of global efforts and European efforts as in disability work, including, some of the human rights dealy, whatever that thing is called. There was a convention on human rights that kind of escalated some topics around accessibility that was felt kind of much more in Europe, but it's something that I've seen referenced a lot. So kind of going into some of the here it is, the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, and that they in that meeting, it seems about 2007, they sort of declare, accessibility is a human right. So that's kind of that stuff and some European things. So I don't know. It's a big summary catch-all of catch us up to date on what all has been happening, but I don't think really goes into things like here in America with the Americans with Disabilities Act, because I think it has more of kind of a European centric. Okay, chapter 2, access services for the blind and partially sighted, a social and legal framework for the promotion of audio description, by Joan Bestard-Bau and Blanca Ares Badia. I read this one so long ago, I don't remember too many of the salient points of what's going on with it. It seems like, they spend a little bit of time going into the kind of social versus kind of medical distinctions of disability, and going into kind of cultural life and how blind and partially sighted folks participate in things. That was another thing kind of digging across these chapters, is realizing that in the States I've seen a lot of kind of language around blind and visually impaired, which would be an acronym of BVI, but here there's other acronyms like blind and partially sighted, so BPS, and there's lots of kind of combinations of hitting at the same thing, but sort of helps reveal kind of where you're from. So I'm going into other legislation. Sorry, I don't have a lot to say about that one. It was a long time ago that I read some of these. Number 3, a profile of audio description end users, linguistic needs and inclusivity. This by the editors, Eliza Perego and Christopher Taylor. So this one also had a very kind of, catch people up to speed with projects that are going on, especially projects in Europe that are trying to kind of track some of the progress and or attempts to progress that are made in audio description practice or distribution or reception, that type of thing. So they reference quite a few times this AD Lab Pro survey, where they're going after practitioners who are authoring audio description and users, and trying to kind of even go down to we produced this description for the first part of this film. as a A test, and then we also want to test against a B, where they roll out like yet a different kind of sequence of words and descriptors, and they're trying to really kind of A/B test some of the language that's used. Section on non-discriminatory language, and you know, kind of from a meta perspective, some of the things going on. All right, chapter 4 gets into a theoretical overview. That's part 2 of the handbook. How am I doing on time? Oh, I'm already over 10 minutes. I'll just go to 15 and then be done. This chapter, chapter 4, a cognitive approach to audio description, production and reception process by, I'm going to say, Jana Holzanova. Very interesting chapter. This one, you know, my kids ripped it apart a little bit on me, but this one was digging into some things that resonate with me and things that I could sink my teeth into in terms of what is just sort of, you know, the processes involved with, you know, encoding a communication and transmitting it and then receiving it and decoding it. What's that process look like? How might something like audio description be studied through a process like that? What's going on? You know, it says cognitively. So really getting into, you know, there's a person involved and more than one person involved in creating the description. So there's cognitive processes on that side, and then there's cognitive processes on the receiving side. So you know, you actually have kind of quite a few more steps of encoding and decoding and processing and unprocessing and synthesizing than I originally kind of imagined. So a pretty dense chapter in different things there. The next one is narratology and an in audio description by Gert Verkuterun. I really hope if you're watching, Gert, that you're okay with me butchering your name for now. I've never met any of these people. Hopefully one day I can. Narratology. I don't really know a whole lot about what this is. This chapter gave me a little bit of an introduction to it, you know, looking at narrative and storytelling and how does that work in this space. I believe it was this this chapter, maybe it's the next one, but one of these two chapters, either 5 or 6, sort of you know, posits that audio description is a language of its own. Really, it's not following, especially if you were to hear it in isolation. So like you're just maybe reading or hearing the audio description, like without the rest of the piece. If it's a film or theater or whatever, you're just experiencing that. Like it is such a different usage of language. It is in some cases highly structured around certain rules, and then in other cases it's so fragmented that because it's in concert with other things that are going on, that it is like it's impossible to consider it. Like what is being communicated there. So in a way, like because it's such a complementary and you know, kind of like force multiplier dimension to the work, it basically takes on kind of like a language of its own. And I find that really exciting, kind of in early days, trying to find its footing, you know, like what is best for the hearers of this. And also, is there a point in the future in which things can get personalized, where people liking it a certain way can get it the way they like, but then the tension involved in that of, but what about the communal experience here of everyone is experiencing the same thing, either with or without the AD, but if you have AD, are you experiencing the same AD, or is it somehow personalized? So I thought this was interesting, and I definitely want to dig into kind of this concept of narratology. Chapter 6, linguistic and textual aspects of audio description, Iwana Mazur. I think a really interesting deep dive, and I've known for a while that some digging into linguistics is going to be a large part of this study, picking apart things like nouns and pronouns, using adverbs, adjectives, all those kind of things. And this is kind of, I think, where my reading sort of started trailing off. I don't remember a whole lot from some of these next ones, so probably going to end it there. But interesting stuff, and definitely worth, if you're into any of these tangential topics, kind of digging into a chapter or two here and there of whatever it makes sense. There's 8 parts to this, and I'm only at chapter 6 or 7. It goes way up there to 20s and 30s. I think there's 38 chapters. So quite a few different angles that you could approach this with, but definitely worth checking out if you're in the space, because while reading about some of the kind of the theories that are, underpinning, very abstract elements of this whole process, I think it is very useful to anybody working in the space, because it gets you to not just to like think more about the choices that you're making, but I think it helps me kind of appreciate how layered choices are, and that when you're in concert and consonance with the work that you're trying to describe, you want all of those choices to sort of like be in the background and motivating you, not bugging you at the front of your head. You want to kind of have them under your belt already. So my recording software just crashed, so I'm going to end it there because I didn't want this to be an hour. But I'll just keep chatting, or I'll just chatting my way through this handbook as I have time, and as other motivations propel me through it. If you're at all also digging through this stuff, feel free to reach out. I'd love to have some conversation with people about it. Thanks so much.